China will replace Australian coal. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee, or right now I'm doing my hashtag not sponsored $1 7-Eleven coffee. And let's have a look at this article from news.com and a few other things. So Russian coal is set to benefit from the trade spat between Australia and China. Now, there's been a lot of, well, let's just say trade tension between Australia and China, and it hasn't really spilled over into coal at the moment. Now, coal is a big export for us here in Australia, and I'm just going to bring up trading economics, and let's have a look at the price of coal right now, and then look at a few, well, just the differences between Australia and Russia and our relationships with China, the scales of our economy. So if we scroll down here, we can see, I'll find coal eventually. I've probably gone past it. You know, I should really have it hyperlinked with a super button because it's so important. What? Okay, hang on. The old-fashioned way of finding stuff. Okay, there we have it. So it's at $80 USD a ton right now. So, you know, we're spiking up. Let's jump out to all time. Now, around this time back here, when it was, you know, quite high, that's when we started working in modular modular architectural buildings for mines. And a lot of these mines that were coal mines were just going crazy with the facilities they were creating to attract the staff, to attract the workers. They had to compete because coal was at a really high price. And then all of a sudden started going down, and that just reduced the demand for the product they had there. Now, coal is a big part of Australia's economy, and I will bring up another, and not just Google Earth view to show you where the active mines are, at least from the data points I got around Australia. There's really two sides to Australia, everyone. There's Western Australia, and there's Eastern Australia. There's a little bit in the middle that, you know, I think there's some horror movies about backpackers filmed in there. But, you know, in all honesty, you can see here, I'm turning on the coal mines. Have a look at just, there you go, it's all the East Coast. Now, most of Victoria's coal is used locally, although some of it is used in industry. But the majority of the exports come from New South Wales and from Queensland. And we worked on projects for, you know, mines up here. It just was going crazy. I recognize a lot of these names for even just tender submissions we put in. We go to iron ore. Boom. Iron ore over here is in Western Australia. You know, it's a big part of that economy. So the concern is, or the question is, that, you know, if China will reduce our the uptake of Australian coal and replace it with China, with Russia. So let's just compare Australia and Russia for a moment. So we'll jump back over here. So this is Australia. Now, I always harp on about our lack of economic complexity. We're at 82 in the world because, well, this is what we're exporting, everyone. We're not exporting high-tech goods. We're not manufacturing high-tech goods. As an architect, if I go to specify Australian-made products, it's very difficult. We just heard on Sunday from a colleague, a residential project has been delayed for weeks because there isn't enough laminated veneer lumber around the place. I need to look into that a bit further, but it just shows you. You know, so we're not a high-tech country, everyone. Don't fool yourself into believing that. We export a lot of primitive goods. You can see iron ore is a big part of it, coal is a big part of it, and a big part of our exports go to China, 39%. Now, if we click on coal, that will update, and you can see China is our third biggest destination. Look at India, 23.5%, and it's a growing market there in India for our coal. As much as the greenies want to vote against it, and, you know, this coal exported to Australia will probably do more for the quality of life in India and China than people could ever realize, and probably have a much greater impact on the environment in a good way, but, you know, they don't see it like that. So, you know, this market we may lose a share of. It's, what, 9.36 billion at the time of this data. Now let's have a look at China. So we see here this, you know, our economic complexity, at Russia. We're 82 in the world. And here is Russia. They're ranked 44th in the world. So we're 82, they're 44th. They've got a much higher economic complexity. Our exports are 284 billion. Our imports are 209. Their exports are 407 billion, and their imports are 238. Their per capita product for imports and exports. So exports is 2,820, and their imports is 1,650. We're 11,200 for exports and 8,223 for imports. So we're getting, apparently our productivity is going down for some reason, and we're becoming poor. Their exports for services in Russia is 57.7. Sorry, I can't help it. And imports is 92.9, and we are 76.5 and 85.5. Now, if we have a look here, we'll just bring this up. We'll bring this up. What's going on here? Why does it look different? Latest information about Russia. Okay, fantastic. Okay, here we go, product and trade. So we can see their largest export is crude petroleum. Now they export coal. Let's see where Russia exports their coal to. And you can see, well, a lot. South Korea, China looks like it's their second one, a lot to Germany. Germany that invested in all of this renewable energy, and they want their gas pipeline and petroleum gas from Russia. So that Russia's coal export, or at least coal briquettes, is 17.6 billion. And this is where they take coal and they just squash it down and get all the water out of it. Like they'll take a wet brown coal, which still looks like the trees when they dig it up. It's crazy. And then they'll compress it, they'll get all the water out of it, they'll make it really dense so it burns at a much higher capacity. Much more energy dense. And much more useful for transportation. So their sector there's 17.6 billion. For Australia, ours is 51.5 billion. Now China, they're sending 2.16 billion, which is 12.3% of their exports over to China, where we are sending 9.36 at 18.2% over to China. Now, if we compare, let's compare the Russia-China relationship. So overall, this is not just coal, this is everything. They're exporting 58.1 billion to China, and their top product is crude petroleum at 33.7 billion. The exports from China are 47.1 billion. They're ranked 16th for China, and their top product is broadcasting equipment. And the economic complexity, you can compare the differences here. And the GDP of Russia is 1.7 trillion. They're 11th in the world. Now, Australia, we are sending 111 billion exports because they're, double, more than double really, to China. Our number one is iron ore. Our exports from China to Australia, we're 12th. So Russia's not as important for us as a destination for Chinese exports. Top product is broadcasting equipment. There you go, broadcasting equipment. My camera, my microphone, even though it's from an Australian-made company, it was made in China, everyone. I went special and got one. We can see the economic complexity, and we've talked all about this. Our GDP is 1.4 trillion at the time of this data. Now, just gives, shows you a bit of comparison there. So there definitely is room for Russia to come and, well, take some of that market. And what we'll bring up again, just to show, is the different method for transportation. This is from marine traffic, showing you all the shipping that's going from Australia. Now, sure, shipping is getting more expensive, at least for bulk, for containers, 40-foot containers. We've been looking at in several videos. And we can see here just the ship routes coming from Australia. You load coal onto a ship, you can take it there pretty efficiently to a modern port. For the Russians, they've got some ports here. I'm not sure where their capacity would be. But, you could imagine that they might be able to get it by rail line. But rail line is much more expensive than shipping. So there could be some differences there. We'll have to see. So with that in mind, let's jump back and have a look at this article. Because, it could be a bit concerning, a bit fear-mongering. We have to remember as well, India is growing. And, there's good relationships between Australia and India, and they want our coal. You can't blame them. You can't blame them. I know Indian people that come over here to study and then go back home because the quality of life is better and cost of living is better back there. Can't blame them. So, Russian coal is set to benefit from the trade spat between Australia and China. This is written by Gerard Coburn. Russia has set its sights on China to expand its coal exports and overtake Australia as the primary provider to one of the world's largest economies. Russia is set to swoop in to take advantage of the escalating trade spat between Australia and China that has financially bruised Australia's major export industries. A Woods Mackenzie report obtained by the Australian has found Russia's coal industry is set to expand its export market into Asia and is gearing up to compete with Australian coal, which China has traditionally been the primary buyer. According to Woods Mackenzie analysts, Russian President Vladimir Putin last week met with industry officials to implement a plan to increase coal exports to Asia by nearly 30% over the next 3 years, an expected increase in output of 34 million tons by 2024. And the one advantage of actually having all of this trade go around the world, having an interconnected world, is that you'll have countries that are in some ways more dependent on each other, and hopefully the argument is that it will result in a decline in potential tensions escalating to a military conflict. That's the hope. Trade dependence. We'll see if it works. Mutually assured destruction has seemed to work. It kept us going for a while. Maybe this will. Maybe it'll have the exact opposite. It is understood Mr. Putin has ordered plans for the expansion of the country's rail routes to carry coal from its main mining area to Asia. The president's announcement on March 2nd suggests a major departure from the current status quo, Woods Mackenzie analysts said. Russia's endeavors suggest the country is trying to become the major coal provider to China amid the souring relationship between Beijing and Canberra. The trade spat between the two nations was in part sparked by Australia's leading call for a global independent inquiry into the origins of the pandemic. China has slapped tariffs on Australian goods, including coal, barley, wine, and live seafood. However, Australian coal prices have risen over recent months following an increase in demand for the commodity from a pickup in economic activity since the onset of the pandemic. Australian coal exporters have also been able to pivot to other markets such as South Korea, Vietnam, and Japan. Beijing has started allowing a few Australian cargo ships to dock. However, it may be months until Chinese buyers may try to resell the commodity in other markets. Wood Mackenzie analyst Rory Symington told the Australian that cargo ships had been unloaded but were understood to have not cleared customs. A number of Australian cargoes have been unloaded in the last month or so. However, we understand none of these has been cleared by customs, he said. This means the cargoes have been unloaded on stockpiles in the Chinese port. This means the vessels and their crews are no longer stuck, but the coal is still unavailable to the buyer until it is cleared. So, some political and trade shenanigans. We'll have to see if this works, because you've got to remember, even though freight on ships is going up, it's still much, much cheaper than, to send a cargo ship full of coal than to train it. So in some ways, it would probably be worse for the environment if you're training the same amount of coal as you were shipping it. But, don't worry about that. Just look at these sulfur dioxide levels above China, and then you realize who the real culprits are for environmental impact. But that's we can't talk about that. That's wrong thing, Florian. Coal is bad, apparently. It's actually really useful. Anyway, guys, there we have it. Potential replacement of Australian coal by the Russians. Do you think it'll have a material impact on our sector, or will they just pivot to other destinations? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you later. Bye for now.